This is Nurse of Death, the Lucy Letby story. Lucy Letby is accused of murdering 7 babies and the attempted murder of 10 more babies at the Countess of Chester Hospital, NICU. On our second episode, we detailed the allegations against Nurse Lucy Letby. We now move on to babies G, H, and I.
Baby G was barely clinging to life, born at just over 1 pound. She had entered the world prematurely by about 16 weeks at Arrow Park Hospital and was transferred to the Countess of Chester in August 2015. Described as the youngest and smallest baby associated with the case against Nurse Lucy Letby, the infant in question was so tiny that she was only about the size of a human hand. As she lay in the neonatal unit of the hospital, her tiny body was already battling tremendous odds. According to evidence presented in court, Letby had helped to create a celebration banner to mark 100 days of baby G surviving. This was just hours before allegedly attempting to kill her for the first time.
Around 2 a.m. on September 7th, 2015, after Letby had started her night shift at the hospital, baby G became violently ill. The father of baby G recounted the troubling experience at the hospital. He had received a call from the medical staff indicating that his daughter was vomiting and had aspirated, but was reassured not to worry. Upon arriving at the hospital with the baby's mother, they discovered that the situation was more severe than they had been led to believe, as the baby was experiencing projectile vomiting. The baby was eventually stabilized. The father realized that something was not quite right upon seeing her after the ordeal. The father of baby G noticed a change in his daughter after she had been aspirated and began projectile vomiting. Prior to the incident, he recalls his daughter smiling in response to his voice, but after the event, he noted a difference in her behavior and she no longer responded to his voice. An MRI scan later revealed that the infant had suffered irreversible brain damage, resulting in quadriplegia cerebral palsy, the name for a condition in which the brain damage disrupts normal muscle function. The child was born with microcephaly, a condition that causes an abnormally small head, as well as breathing difficulties, visual impairment, and requires constant care with aid of a feeding tube.
The medical staff grew concerned when baby G started experiencing projectile vomiting, breathing difficulties, and had a swollen, discolored abdomen. The infant was intubated and transferred to a different room, but remained unwell for several hours after the episode. A doctor who arrived at the neonatal unit observed that the baby had a large projectile vomit and a swollen and purple discolored abdomen with blood-stained fluid from the trachea. Letby allegedly exchanged text messages with a colleague after finishing her shift in which she described baby G's collapse as awful. And then her colleague said, "How are the parents? Any idea what caused it?" The nurse replied, "Nope. Just seems to be a circulatory collapse. Chest seems clear." Miss Letby replied, what can cause that? Is it that she's been an extreme preem who had long-term inotrope and vent dependency, and now she's older and doing more for herself, and it just takes a little bug or something to tip her over as no reserves and chronic lung, etc.? The nurse replied, "We're going with sepsis, and yes to no reserves. She looks grim." Baby G was eventually returned to Arrow Park Hospital in the early hours of September 8th, and by the next week, she was deemed well enough to be transferred back to the Countess of Chester Hospital.
On September 21st, the prosecution alleges that Letby made 2 further attempts to murder baby G with a 5-hour gap between them. Prosecutor Johnson informed the jury that the infant suffered the same medical issue she experienced on September 7th, but this time it appeared after a documented feed by Letby. He said there had been no significant issues with baby G at all since September 7th. The reason she had vomited was because she had been given excessive milk and air by Nurse Letby. It's alleged she was the common denominator, and the baby's death coincided with her shifts. According to the child's parents, although child G survived the incidents, she was never the same again and now suffers from quadriplegia cerebral palsy.
The next baby to suffer under the care of Nurse Letby is referred to as baby H. She was born 6 weeks premature, and when she arrived at the Countess of Chester Hospital, she was reportedly doing quite well. However, the infant suffered 2 unexpected collapses shortly after being moved to Letby's ward. According to a written statement by baby H's mother, the parents were alerted to come to the neonatal unit early in the morning of September 26, 2015, and upon arrival, they witnessed medical staff performing resuscitation on their infant, who had suffered 2 sudden collapses while under the care of Letby in the neonatal unit. While the staff managed to revive the infant, the mother stated that they were unable to provide a reason for the sudden cardiac collapse. The parents of baby H were at their baby's side for the day and were sleeping in another room when they were called back to the unit to witness an almost identical scene. Fortunately, the infant recovered and was later moved to another hospital where she improved significantly. The girl is now 7 years old and has not experienced any long-term health problems.
According to Benjamin Myers, a lawyer for Lucy Letby, the unexplained collapses of baby H were attributed to suboptimal care provided by the hospital, and he claimed that they were not related to the defendant. We now move on to baby I. Baby I was prematurely born on August of 2015 at Liverpool Women's Hospital at a gestational age of 27 weeks and weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces. Later that month, she was transferred to the Countess of Chester Hospital. Nurse Letby is accused of attempting to kill baby I on 3 separate occasions before finally allegedly murdering the infant on the 4th try. The first attempt was on September 30th, followed by 2 further attempts during the night shifts on October 12th and 13th. The mother of baby I stated that she believed her daughter could have been discharged as she was around 6 weeks old and seemed to be recovering well. The mother continued on, "I started to notice that she was looking different," she said. "She was looking around the room now, taking it all in. I was able to sit her on my knee. I remember looking at her and thinking, we're going home. She looked like a full-term baby. She didn't look frail or small." At that time, the mother of baby I remembered being given permission to give her daughter her very first bath. Miss Letby assisted in preparing the bath for her.
The mother said she was so pleased to be able to bathe her, and her daughter was obviously enjoying it because she was smiling. Lucy even offered to take some photos using my phone, which I agreed to, she said. "I didn't have too much to do with Lucy. She always appeared reserved compared to the other nurses. She didn't really interact with parents." According to baby I's mother, she received a call in the early hours of October 23rd and was instructed to immediately come to the hospital with her partner. Upon arriving, she observed Miss Letby in the company of another nurse, Ashley Hudson, and Dr. John Gibbs, who informed the couple that they were working to try to resuscitate the baby. The mother stated that she heard them all counting times. I asked Dr. Gibbs how long they had been doing this, to which he said 20 minutes. I remember thinking, they can't keep doing it. I said to Dr. Gibbs, "You can't do any more." They pronounced the infant dead shortly after this. The prosecution claimed Letby had harmed the baby by injecting air into her feeding tube and bloodstream before she eventually died in the early hours of October 23, 2015. Baby I's mother and her partner were taken to a private room. It was there Miss Letby and another nurse, Ashley Hudson, asked if the mother wanted to bathe her infant's body. The baby's mother replied, "I didn't want to look back and regret not doing it, so I said yes." Lucy brought the bath in. She said she could come in and take photos, which we could keep. While we were bathing her, Lucy came back in. She was smiling and kept going on about how she was present at the first bath and how baby I enjoyed it. She said she had wished she would just stop talking. Eventually, she realized it and stopped. It was not something we wanted to hear, she said. She recalls, "I remember it was Lucy who packaged up baby I's belongings to go home." Dr. Gibbs had discussed the possibility of an autopsy with baby I's mother, but she refused it, as she wanted her daughter to be left alone. However, Dr. Gibbs mentioned that an autopsy was necessary to clear the hospital, since the death was unexpected.
Dr. Gibbs wrote in his medical notes that there was likely a generalized lung collapse, very stiff, small volume lungs due to distress and crying for baby I. He testified in court that he suspected the infant cried in distress, causing her lungs to shrink, which made it difficult for her to breathe. However, he admitted that he was having trouble understanding what exactly occurred with baby I. Dr. Dewey Evans, a medical expert called by the prosecution, testified that he believed that baby I had been subjected to an infusion of air into her stomach via a feeding tube on the first 3 occasions. However, he suggested that the baby had been subjected to a different method of harm before her final collapse, indicating that she might have been a victim of having air injected into her blood circulation, which could explain her crying and distress and the medical team's inability to save her life the second time around. The court also learned that Miss Letby also searched for baby I's mother on Facebook twice, on October 5th of 2015, once on November 5th, 2015, and just before midnight on May 29th of 2016.
Lucy Letby faces 22 charges for allegedly killing 5 infant boys and 2 infant girls, as well as the attempted murder of 10 others at Countess of Chester Hospital in 2015 and 2016. The trial continues on.